Okay, good morning, everybody. You are attending the 2023 winter spring kitchen design class. And if somebody can just shoot me you're able to ask questions in that and chat. Somebody, or if you can just say that you can hear me okay. And then we're going to get started. So give you a little bit of a background on the class. I have been teaching this class, oh geez, going on, I would say 30 years probably. And I've gone through the adult ed departments. I've gone through some local venues, appliance stores, things like that. And I really enjoy teaching, as hopefully you can see, with me on stage and things like that, that I've got they've got a real passion to do this. So as we get into this today, we're going to be talking about, it really expands on the little talk that I gave down at the show. And we'll talk about all the different appliances. We'll talk about lighting and flooring and countertops and things like that. Thanks, Lori, for letting me know. I appreciate that. So let me just get this off the screen. Okay, here we go. Okay, so here we go. And one of the things that I do is I really like to educate. And something interesting, I'll go to the next slide. Something interesting that I did over the pandemic. You look back, those were some pretty dark times as soon as we got hit with it. And one of the things that I vowed to do is to have some, not downtime, but like interest in webinars. I would have like weekly webinars, and I would have a whole hour webinar on how to buy cabinetry. I'd have a whole hour web tops and plumbing fixtures and lighting and cabinet layout and on and on and on. And people really, really enjoyed it. But what I've done is I've saved them all. And I have them in a group package with there's a book also that follows this class. And then a client survey form, which means that as you go shopping, get started, I have a whole like 10 pages for you to fill out. And then I have a kitchen pricing program. If anybody's interested in this stuff, just let me know. I don't make any money on this stuff. I just do it. It's out there. You guys are going to make major investments. So it's going to be nice that you have the tools to go along with it. So you can contact me or whatever. If you're interested, I can send you a link and you can get started. People have loved them. My clients, everybody, because where do you start? Where do you start looking for how to do cabinetry and pick appliances and things like that? Okay. So here's the advantages of a new kitchen. Better design. You can get on, we'll talk about hows in a minute, and I talked about that down at the show, but you can get a really nice design. New look. Investment. This is interesting because, what do you, like I said at the show, what do you spend in a kitchen? And I have found more and more that people are spending more, and not ever since the pandemic, actually since 9/11. I go back 30-40 years doing this. During 9/11, people cocooned afterwards, and the same thing with the pandemic. I mean, I love to cook. That's my hobby, and I'm not a big person going out. I'll go out once in a while, but I just love to cook and stay home. And that's why people are spending more and putting more into their homes, and especially into their kitchens. And that could be through appliances. We talked about the steam oven during the show and things like that. That can all be coming around. And it is an investment. Okay. I'm going to tell you about 10 slides that are my favorite slides. And here is one of them. I love this homeowner attitude curve. I have a lady that we finished the kitchen yesterday. And about 2 hours later, I'm going out with my wife to my daughters, and a Bing comes across, and I said to her, who texted us? And she said, oh, must be a client of yours. They already did their meatloaf, and they sent you a picture with a big thank you and a smile. And that's going to be at the end of the curve here, but let's just walk through. Okay, sales presentation. What do you do? Where do you start? The class is really, really good to really get you excited and get you motivated. But once you get going, the best way to do business is referrals. Like, do you know somebody that's had their kitchen done, and who did they use and what did they think and things like that. They even have these block clubs now, virtual, where you can go and ask. I think a lot of the communities have them. My community has it here in Chagrin Falls. And you can ask and people give you names and that. So you're going up, your attitude is really getting excited. You sign the contract. And then it dips a little bit. Why does it dip? Because you handed me a check. And then it'll go back up. And once the construction begins, hey, my kitchen's starting. And then it dips when you're torn out and you don't have a kitchen. And then you get excited because now the cabinets are going in. So now it's really taking shape. And so then you get the big dip. And what that big dip is you're waiting for your countertops, because you can't go and you can't all of a sudden have a countertop 3 days later, because what they need to do is, the proper way to do countertops is to come out and template after the cabinets are set, and then go and have them fabricated. Now, one of the issues with that, okay, is that I don't know if any of you are do-it-yourselfers out there. Again, you guys can communicate with me through asking questions and things like that, and then I can answer them. But what if you're a do-it-yourselfer, you really want to get people and ask this question when they're having the countertops fabricated and put in: how long is it going to be before I get my countertops back? If they're telling you 5 to 8 weeks, that's pretty extensive. Usually 2 to 3 weeks. I generally don't have it go much further than that, but it all depends on where we are in this world and how busy people are and things like that. So that's something to ask when you're getting your countertops in. And then the job's complete. This is how I make my living. Okay, that's that meatloaf picture last night that came 2 hours after my guys left. And she had her meatloaf dinner with mashed potatoes, gravy, and green beans. So that's the way it should work. What you don't want to do is you don't want to have the job go down where it says job continues and just dump off the end. I do design only work. I do both, but I do design work around the country. And I have somebody in Buffalo right now, and he's just, I'm working with him on the design, and he's just telling me how hard a struggle it is. First of all, to get people to come out to bid it, and then second, to be responsive afterwards, so you want to be very careful and start early. Okay, moving on. Let's start talking today about cabinetry. There's a couple different things that you can do with your kitchen. You can either remodel it or you can reface it. When I started back in the 80s, refacing was popular. You would have laminate doors, you'd go out and replace the doors, laminate the sides. And the advantage to that, or there's several advantages to it. Number one is price. So if you don't want to put a new kitchen in, you can go. You have to ask yourself though, what's the quality of the cabinetry like? And then also, what is the design like? A lot of times I'll get people, and I don't get many people at all anymore refacing, but a lot of times when people say, can I keep my cabinets? They usually end up becoming, oh, by the way, clients, or oh, by the way, customers. And what that means is, oh, by the way, I want to keep my cabinets, but I want to get my microwave off the countertop. Oh, by the way, I want to get 2 ovens instead of 1. Oh, by the way, I want to have a 5-burner cooktop versus a 4. So all those things come into play, and you're ending up remodeling the kitchen anyway. So those are things that you have to really think about. Refacing the doors usually are easy maintenance. They're usually laminate doors, or they might be what's referred to as foil doors. Could be a raised panel with like a laminate foil going around it. Some of you might even have it if your house is about 20 years old. And then that's where you notice the doors, they start peeling and things like that. You have a great selection of materials, all the different colors of the world and laminates and things like that. So you have a nice selection there. Now we go into new cabinets. It's an investment. You have much more flexibility now, because when I go in, I basically see 4 empty walls. Hey, You know, what should I do with it? You know, and we have fun along with the clients and be able to get what their initial thoughts are. And then I take it from there and run with it. Can be very flexible. New design, you know, and when we say new design, like a lot of times I mentioned at the show about men, I asked the question to raise your hand if the men are cooking in the kitchen. You know, like something like that really comes into play with new design. Like, you know, is the kitchen going to be for one? Is the kitchen going to be for two? Is it a growing family? Do you want the kids to be able to sit, do their homework? Do you want a command center? So all these things come into play that weren't there, you know, that we did not find years ago. Not limited to what we can do, you know, at least from a design standpoint, much more so if everybody's on a budget, which you are, you know, that would limit you maybe on some selections and, you know, quality of the cabinets and, you know, what you're going to do as far as your appliance package. Okay. We talked about this at the beginning of the presentation at the show. Oh, one thing before I forget, there is another show coming up, and this one is strictly focused on remodeling. It's at the end of March, and I'll be speaking there again. But one of the things I'm changing up is I'm going to have first time ever, I'm going to have an interview session with Matt Fox. He's going to interview me, which really would be interesting. I'm really looking forward to that. And then I'll also have that 25 tips again. So if you're interested, it's the end of March at the IX. Okay, so here we go, frame versus frameless cabinetry. We talked last time about the 4 styles at the presentation. That will come up again. But let's now focus in detail on this. So we have on the left, we have the framed cabinetry. You notice a framework going around it, okay? On the right, we have frameless. You see there's no frame. Very important to understand. Hopefully you guys have gone home after the show, got on Houzz, and you start looking at pictures. You can get on my website, my gallery, things like that. So one of the things that on the left of the 4 styles, remember we have modern, we have transitional, we have country, and we have traditional. So on the left, you're going to have basically either traditional or country. On the right, you're either going to have modern or transitional, okay? And again, you have those hinges showing on that one photo, but you don't need hinges today. Or you do need hinges, but they would be concealed. So you can get rid of that. Okay. Framed cabinetry. There's your frame. Shows the hinges as an option. A lot of times when people are going traditional, like if they want a furniture piece, that's when they'll use the hinges. If they're not going to go that direction, then they usually want to conceal them. Champers. I love using champers. A chamfer basically is routing out the sides, taking an ice cream scooper, okay, and basically scooping out these edges right here when they're at the end of a run. One of the things I like to do too is I like to pull my my sink base forward, and then I can go and have a nice clear this out here. Hold on one second. Something just popped up on my screen. Somebody had just asked, what do I think of RTA cabinets? I'm not understanding what that means, and I've never even heard of them, so I would not be able to guide you on that. Okay. Chamfers, that we talked about the ice cream scoop, beaded or flush inset. Okay, now this is important here because one of the options you have is when you see this right here, this framework on the inside, that could be flush or it could have a little bead on it. And I'll show you an example probably coming up. And that gives a little more traditionalism to it. Most people elect not to go with the bead anymore. They elect to go with the flush inset, which is what this is. Sturdy construction. Now, whether you go framed or frameless, you're not going to have that situation where, oh, is one better than the other? They're different. So one of the things with framed construction, what you can do is instead of having 3 cabinets. Let's say we're going to do a bathroom and we have a 6-foot run of cabinetry, okay? And we want to do frameless. If I did 6 foot of frameless, I usually can't go bigger than 42 to 48 inches with the size of a frameless cabinet because of the structure of it. You know, it'll get a little flimsy. With framed cabinetry, I could probably go over 6 to 7 feet. So they could deliver one vanity in, they can get it up the stairs, and we could put it right in with the frame. The otherwise, it's going to be like 3 separate cabinets. Does that matter to you? Not really. But it is a little easier for the installers and things like that. So that's what that means by sturdier construction, because you have that front frame. It's almost like taking a shoebox. Take the lid off the shoebox and then play with the sides, and you can see how flimsy they are. And then all of a sudden put the front, the top, the lid on that shoebox, and that thing's not going anywhere. That's basically putting the frame on that. Okay, frameless. Has no frame. Hinges are attached to the box so you don't see them. There's the size limitations I talked about. Now here's a good slide. This is one where you're taking a door sample. See what I do with what these actually are. Okay. How nice would it be to have a full door like that to go around and tile shop and granite shop and floor shop and things like that. These are called sample doors. And I usually have one made for most or not all my clients, so they have an idea of what their kitchen's going to look like before it comes. So that's what we're talking about with this slide. You're taking a door sample and you're turning it on its side. Now on the top, full overlay or frameless, that basically should be frameless, so you don't have to frame at all. Standard overlay, the slash lines are the door, and then the rectangle is just the box, the front frame of the cabinet. So you can see a standard overlay, the door does not cover the frame the whole way, and it sets on top of the frame. This was popular back in the 70s, the 80s. A lot of you might have it now if your kitchen's over 20, 25 years old. And you'll see examples of these coming up. 3/8 inset. This was popular when I started, where you don't want that real bulkiness of that standard overlay. You can take and route out the door and it only sticks out 3/8 of an inch. And then you have inset. And that's what we've looked at with that inset we just showed you. The door sets into the frame. So it's a nice appearance, and you'll see examples of that. Okay, here's that bead I was talking about, okay? This is an inset frame door. So let's walk through this. There's your frame. There's the inset. You can see the bead. Okay. And where I like to use the bead, I mentioned at the show about the glazing. This is a glazed door. And again, in layman's terms, you're taking a inset door and you're putting shoe polish all over that door. Let's say it's black, brown shoe. Let's go brown shoe polish. And then as soon as we put that shoe polish on, we're going to wipe it right off. Notice what's happening. It's getting caught up in all the nooks and crannies. So you can see that bead gets highlighted. And that's called glazing. Usually adds about 10% to the price of cabinetry. There's the flush. That's more popular today. So you can see there's the bead, there's the flush. Now, you don't have to have either, like I said in the show, you don't have to have framed or frameless. Let me pick one. Now you have the option of doing both in the kitchen. If you go and look at some of my gallery pictures, you'll see the island might be, inset, and the rest might be frame, sort of, full overlay or something. So it doesn't have to be one or the other. There's a standard overlay. Again, not popular. I probably haven't sold something like that in, I don't know, maybe 20, 25 years. I may have thrown in a vanity at one point for a basement bathroom or maybe a laundry room or something, but usually I don't go that direction. There's that 3/8 inset. So it's the same door, but it doesn't look, same thickness door, but it doesn't look as thick because it was routed out in the back and you don't have that, that depth. And there's the full overlay. What full overlay, I keep using that term, full overlay and frameless are pretty close. Full overlay is where you have a door that covers the frame. So you have a frame, you have a door that pretty much covers the frame. Can't go all the way covering it because it has to be allowed for the hinges to open, but that's what full overlay means. So here's a traditional door put on a more modern type of application, and that's what you get. Okay, this is frameless. So now all of a sudden, we're seeing the frameless, again, no framework, and we're seeing the situation come across where we can now go modern. This happens to be a wood door, very clean, elegance through simplicity, and you'll hear me use that term in a couple minutes. Okay, panel options. These are the 3 panel options that we have when we go looking for a kitchen. We can go flat panel, where it's more modern. We can go recess panel. This is really the most popular one right now. Forget that exact style. I'm just going for the theory of it. And then, or we can go recess panel. Notice the difference in that middle door. It's pretty clean. Look at the right, that's glazed. So you can see the beautiful highlighting that adds to it. So what we have here, people are not going as formal as they used to with these raised panels. They're keeping it much more simplistic. There's a ton of different options with any of these, except for the flat panel. That would be more selection of materials. But you have a lot of options with the recess panel. What's the inner edge look like? What's the outer edge look like? You know, things like that. Another thing that gives away, and you'll hear all about this if anybody takes advantage of all my webinars, but see this outer edge here, okay? You have the outer edge on that recess panel is just squared off. Then you look at the outer edge here, it's more of a traditional routed out corner or edge detail, which again adds to the highlighting, but also goes and gives a little more traditionalism to it. Okay, styles of kitchens. These are the 4 we talked about. So let's go through them. We'll start with country. Warm feeling, woods with deep grains, oak, pine, ash, hickory, or alder, stained or painted finishes. Can be either or. By the way, on the woods, I love alder the best. It's almost like it doesn't have the radical graining pattern that you're going to get with oak and ash. Pine you stay away from today. It was popular when I started. It's so soft. Hickory is like one of those painted horses where you're going to get a lot of movement. I've used a lot of hickory on floors, but not as much in cabinetry. Wear through on painted finishes, which is nice. So you could paint a kitchen and take in theory, a belt sander and just knock off the edges, and it looks like a wear through. So that's a nice detail on a country kitchen. Accessories include knickknacks, warm tiles, natural stones, glass doors, and plants. That was the picture at the show. See how warm that is? Chestnut beam, didn't wrap it. Look at the doors, look at the cabinetry. This now in front of your computer, you can see a better picture of putting the glaze on paint. That is not popular today. People tend to think that looks dirty, but there you go, getting a close-up of it there. I'm referencing, if you guys can see my cursor, I'm referencing right here, you know. Okay, we have anybody down in the Lodi area? This is a Lodi kitchen that's probably about 4 or 5 years old. And we took out a wall. This was a little, where the windows are was a little dining area. We took that out, that wall, we opened it up, and we created a beautiful country type kitchen. And you can see there looking right away, your eye should be drawing to the cabinetry. Is it framed? Is it frameless? Okay, so there you can see it's framed. An inset, flush inset frame cabinet. Here, a young lady, this is out here in the valley in Chagrin. She came to me and said she wanted a turquoise island. And I said, oh, but you can see how beautiful it turned out. And if you can look up really close to those panels on the end, you'll see the wear through on the moldings and things like that, and on those legs. I did this beautiful kitchen here. We did the whole first floor. My favorite part of it is the popcorn popper. I love that red, that splash of red, or the pendants over the island. You know, added a really nice touch. It doesn't have to be exactly the cabinetry or this or that. These little small details really add a nice feature. Here's a country kitchen. Again, there's the wear through on the island inset. The accessorizing, again, the pendants are really nice. I love that clock there. You know, so everything there turned out real nice. Okay, so now we go from there to traditional. Touch of class. Take country woods and change to either cherry or maple. Stained or painted finishes. Beware that cherry will darken with one whole shade, so select it on the lighter side. That's why it's important when you look at somebody gives you a chip, a door chip, or if they give you a sample door, check, and when you're buying cherry, check the back and see what the expiration date is, because that'll give you a feel. Like if you're buying it off of that and say, this is the way I want it, you know, it could take a year or two to get to that point. It'll come off the truck and it'll look totally different. So you want to be careful with cherry. Okay. Here is a kitchen that is, actually, I'll show you something here. This kitchen I did about 2-3 years ago. Tell you how long I've been doing this. It's that kitchen. They called me about 25 to 28 years later. So this kitchen here is about 28 years old. And the reason I keep it in there to show you the difference now with what people are, okay. So that's the same kitchen right there. So now we're going, they went with more of a touch of class. It was it's a Century Home down in Hudson. And you could see here now, it's the inset, flush inset, recessed panel. And now you're going, there's a hickory floor, by the way. There's put a hickory floor in. And so it adds a nice touch of class, painted with the island being painted a different color. If we have any Far East Siders, this would be more towards Mentor. But again, draw your eye to the framework. There's an inset cabinet, glazed. We added our personal touch. We went to a local stained glass guy, and he went and designed a stained glass pieces, leaded glass pieces. Same kitchen as earlier. Okay, modern means style of the day. Do a lot of modern now. Woods, laminates, or lacquers. Very clean, very linear. High gloss or matte finishes. There's that full overlay or frameless. No soffits. With any of these styles, people are wanting to get rid of those soffits today. For anybody that does not know what that is, it is the box that's above the wall cabinets. So there is a modern kitchen, and you can see with the detailing, flat panel, very understated. Okay, there's the hood. And what we did here, the window was lower, so I went and put in a flower box, so he didn't have to change the window. And he put actually grow lights there for his herbs. He had a really nice touch. The husband retired, and we did a nice kitchen for them. Strongsville. another more modern. Us to have sell a German line of cabinetry out of Stuttgart, and both of these are that German line. Very affordable, you know, and it's just different. When we talk modern, there's two types of modern. There's the American modern, where you get a lot of color, the islands are busy, blah, 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 blah. And look at that, very understated, really elegantly understated. Same thing here. Now, this is a little more American, just a touch. The colors on the tile, you know, you would not see that in a true European kitchen. You would see more like this. The lady had a bad back. Notice how I raised the cabinet ovens, you know. So she has all that detailing there. Beautiful kitchen. Again, elegantly understated. Transitional is the one that most of you are going to probably go ahead and venture into. Blending of yesterday and today. So what basically is happening is you're going to take a traditional door and you're going to put it on a frameless box. Teeter-totter theory. I use this at this talk. Basically, it's taking a teeter-totter and how you want to go with it. Do you want to go a little more modern, or you want to go a little more on the traditional side? So it can go either way. Accessorizing plays a huge role in that. There's a transitional kitchen. That kitchen was down at the show, that picture. That's leaning itself a little more modern. Look at the hood, the hardware on the cabinetry, frameless. It happens to be a mahogany stained cherry. So look at the traditionalism here. Look at how the other room, the crown molds and all that stuff, and how we tied it all in. You know, just went a little more modern with the cabinetry. Brecksville, traditional door, frameless box. That's leaning itself more traditional. There's the kitchen everybody wants. You look first thing, frameless, but a traditional shaker style door. This one leans itself a little more towards the modern. Look at the twisted hardware. Look at the hood. You know, look at how you separate the cooktop from the wall oven. It's very European to do something like that. There's another view. Okay, that's it for the cabinet end of it. Now let's talk about, these are the things in my webinars. I have a whole webinar on picking accessories. And then also I have that in my book. Let's go through. What I do is when I start with somebody, I go through a whole wish list. I have a PowerPoint, like 2 hours, everything that can go into a kitchen. I'll just show you a couple of them. But these are the things that you want people to be asking you to have a checklist. Last thing you want to do in a kitchen is to do it and then go see a friend and they have something. You say, well, how come they didn't tell me about that? Vegetables, trays. You know, we talk about, we're going to come up briefly and talk about stock versus custom cabinets. When we talk about custom cabinets, you can go and we can put the trays any height we want. You know, I measure what the biggest tray is. Same thing with ovens. Like if you go with the stock cabinet, you're set to put the oven where you want, where they make you have it. Where if you go custom, you have that flexibility. It doesn't mean that custom cabinets have to be an arm and a leg. That's not true. But you just want to make sure that which direction you want to go. Here's a flip up retract. I do a lot of this for command centers. Just not as popular. I mean, garages are popular, but not the tambour. It's more like something like this. Rollouts, very popular. You don't have to be bending back into the kitchen. File drawers. You want a file drawer over by the command center. Chopping blocks. Not as popular today, because a lot of the sinks now, they're an accessory to the sink. So you don't have to worry about, the bacteria and everything on these built-in ones. Pantry with rollouts. I love this slide. Who would ever put that KitchenAid mixer that high? Pull out wall cabinet for spices. Pantries, all different kinds of pantries. You could go with a chef's pantry, like I showed you, that pantry with rollouts. Cutlery dividers. A lot of those around the kitchen. They can get them plastic where you can wash them. You can get wood. Mixer lift. People that are really into baking and that, so you're not lifting that KitchenAid all the time. Pull out spice little cabinets. Do with the towel. Knife drawer, that's popular. Get things off the counter. Wine racks. Under counter tilt downs, popular. You get rid of all your sponges and all that, the visibility of them. Red box. There's a hugely popular one right there. Probably every part of the kitchen goes in and has a plate drawer. One of the things, people are opening rooms up, they're opening their windows up. So where do you put the plates? And not only that, it's easy, not that you're not lifting up into wall cabinets, or if you have small children, things like that. Okay, so that takes care of cabinetry. Let's talk about cabinetry layout. Where do you start? Okay, where do you start the process first before we talk about the layout? Cut out magazine pictures. That's almost been replaced now with that Houzz, H-O-U-Z-Z. Attend the shows. There's the Houzz. What people that didn't know, or if somebody was not at the show, that's a website you can get on, and they have some absolutely terrific pictures, like million pictures of top designers around the world, and you can actually save them. Save the pictures, and you create a file drawer, file system, and then you can pass them on to your designer, you can do whatever. So the magazines aren't as popular today because of Houzz and Pinterest and things like that. Great resource. Garden Web, talked about that at the show. That's part of Houzz now. You go in, it's a forum. You can start talking to all your friends around the world. Like, hey, does it, like the person that just brought up, I think it was Lauren, about those cabinets. If that was a brand of cabinetry, Lauren, just get on Garden Web, type that in, and you'll get a ton of responses probably, Talk to friends. That's a huge thing. That's where I get a ton of my business. Or call me if you have any questions or you need assistance. I'm always there for you. Okay, here's that stock versus custom. Okay, so limited stock, limited doors, limited woods, limited finishes, no flexibility to the cabinets, but good pricing. Like if you wanted glazed cabinets, or, probably not going to get it. Or if you wanted, like I said, that appliance garage system, or, something like that, you'd have much more limitations. Custom end, ton of doors to pick from, several woods. I work with the Amish a lot, and I just take out a door and they'll tweak it for me, make it bigger, smaller, whatever. So I have a lot of success with that. Beautiful finishes. You can do artisan finishes if you want. Complete flexibility to the cabinetry, and then the pricing is going to tend to be a little bit more. longer lead times with the custom versus the stock. Stock means exactly what it is. I mean, it's warehouse somewhere and they ship it probably, I'm not in the stock world, but I would assume they would ship it probably between 3 and 6 weeks. Custom, things are starting to level out now from the pandemic and the craziness. So the custom cabinets are getting down to, over the last, before the pandemic, just to give you an idea, I could get cabinets from any line in 6 to 8 weeks, okay? During the pandemic, and because everybody wanted to stay home and remodel, the extended lead times with cabinetry went up to almost 20 to 22 weeks, almost a half a year. They're down to probably 12 to 15 weeks. So I don't know if anybody's planning doing a kitchen this year or not, but you're never too soon if you're thinking of doing it this year. Same thing with contractors. Contractors are extremely busy. Okay, so here's what to expect. Here's a couple of my designs where this is referred to as a floor plan. You go in and you can do a situation where come up with a layout, interview the client, and this is what to expect. Everybody's going to get a floor plan. Same thing with electrical. When I do my designs, most of my clients want electrical plans so they can get to the electrician, and so I do that. And do the elevations, okay? Which is nice is that like when you saw that floor plan, you had no idea how many drawers are on the sink run, okay? Or what the cooktop wall looks like. So now with these elevations, you can see. One of my favorite all-time stories did this kitchen. This is out in Bay Village. And when we did this kitchen, she had 4 daughters and she took the girls to a pottery class and we created a glass frame for each of the 4 girls with their pottery. And as the kids have grown and gone off to college, it's still a nice remembrance for the mother. Okay, so these are all that's called elevations. And then you say to me, oh, wait a minute, what the heck is this? What you're looking at here now are called renderings. You saw this at the show, but it was hard up on the screen to see how realistic this looks. Look how realistic this picture is. I have a young guy in Washington, D.C., and for a minimal amount, he'll create these pictures that look like photographs. So you have that at your availability. There was that Strongsville kitchen. So they saw that kitchen before it went in. Okay. Any questions on the cabinetry? Now we're going to move on to appliances. Okay, let's go. So basically, this slide is a work study. Let's call this a study of Thanksgiving Day. And you can look here and you see there's thin lines, there's thicker lines. This is tracking the movement of the people in the kitchen, and we'll call it Thanksgiving Day. So you can see that between the sink and the prep area, or the sink and the mixing area, how thick that line is. You can see how thick that line is from the sink to the range, how thin the line is to the ovens. Now, how does all this translate? Well, in your really strategic areas, you're not going to want to put your ovens. You're going to want, especially if you stack them, you're going to want them a little more out of the way and utilize the counter space. You don't go into the oven a quarter of the time as much as you're going to be at the cooktop or at the range or something. Same thing in the refrigerator. You want to bring that a little bit closer. The one thing I would have done on this work study is I would have taken that refrigerator and taken it closer to the table, because a lot of times people are, you have that run from the table. But this will give you an idea, because we're going to start talking in a minute about that work triangle, and you can get a feel where the traffic is between the prep. Now, between that prep and the sink, that goes and tells me I need to have plenty of counter space in that area because I'm doing a lot of my prep work. Here's that triangle slide. Okay, again, there's 3 major parts. You have your sink, your cooking, your refrigerator. In that triangle method, you have the distances of all 3 locations. The total of these three sides should fall between 14 and 24 feet. If it is less, then there will not be enough counter space. Like too much will be too much. So what we can do is put things in a corner if we're under 14 feet. If we're over 24 feet, we can create mini triangles so we can make the adjustments as needed. Okay, refrigeration area. Determine if you want an up and down or side by side. Are you getting a new unit or keeping? So it's good to tell the designer, what you're going to be keeping. Doors should open into the work area. Location should be near the eating area and yet close to the sink and the cooking because it is one of the units in the triangle. At least 15 inches on one side. And here are the different types of units. Freestanding, counter depth, built-ins, fully integrated built-ins, under counter units, and actually you can do under counter drawers too. There's a freestanding refrigerator. We've all grown up with that. You can see how far it sticks into the room. Those are usually about 33 with a handle, 33 to 35 inches that it will stick into the room. Really not as popular today. Counter depth is very popular, 24 inches deep. Okay, a little bit taller, and you can see it gives us that nice flush look. Built-ins. Okay, now we start getting into the built-in where we can go and you could start spending, I don't know, probably 8 to 10 grand on a refrigerator. Where you get that counter depth, you start spending maybe 25 to 35 on that. So you have that opportunity now to go. And now the other thing that gives you that flexibility is that what happens is that you can go wider. A freestanding refrigerator and a counter depth are usually only going to be 36 inches wide. When you go to a built-in now, you could go up to 48 inches with them. So you have that flexibility to go much larger with your refrigeration. But is it worth the trade-off with the cost? Fully integrated. What does that word fully integrated means? See, when those things are shut, you never know that you have a refrigeration unit or freezer drawers or anything. So you get into an opportunity where you can have those shut off and you can't find your refrigerator in the kitchen. So it gives you, that's really nice in modern kitchens where you really want that clean, unbroken look. Under counter refrigeration. That's what I was talking about. That's a nice thing too. If you want more refrigeration and you don't want to spend all that money, go with the counter depth and then, put under counter and under counter. Same thing. I skipped over that, but basically drawer is the same thing. Okay, you heard me at the presentation say I don't do much with microwaves today. That is the case, and I'll show you why in a minute. But we have different options for the microwaves if you do elect to go that direction. Shouldn't be set on the countertop for sure. Need to work the size in. Door swing is important. I also like to keep these things close to the refrigerator because usually something comes out of that goes in the microwave comes out of the refrigerator. Can be bought as one unit or as a unit with an oven. If that's if you're stacking. Okay, there's what I said about close in that refrigeration area. Over the hood, don't do much with that today. For the very reason, two things, aesthetics and reaching over. If I do an oven or a microwave, I definitely want to do a trim kit and make it look built in, as you can see here. Now, here's the difference, by the way, between a stock and a custom cabinet. Do you notice the gap? You got like a 2-inch gap above the frame, and you got about 1.5 inches on the bottom. If I were doing that myself, I would have those doors and that drawer go right up to that unit. Underneath. Cooking. Okay, we have different options for cooking. Gas versus electric. Downdraft versus updraft. We'll cover all these. Commercial versus residential. Big question, 1 oven or 2? How many burners on the cooktop? All good things to start thinking about. Naturally, location should be in the cooking area and also within range of the sink. You need to have plenty of counter on both sides, a minimum of 12, ideally to have 24 plus, because you're going to do a lot of prep, a lot of work in this area. There's a close-up of my favorite cooktop. There's that 5 burner. Usually going with that 5 burner, you're doing it for the reason of either wanting a high BTU burner or having a low simmer burner. Not necessarily people are getting a 5 burner cooktop have 5 burners. They're doing it because they have that flexibility to have one with a high BTU burner or a simmer burner. There's the Pro Style ranges. Again, not as popular today. People used to put those in a ton. I should say that I'd probably put one in probably 3 a year, where about 10 years ago was really the thing. People now want that flexibility and with wall ovens and cooktops and things like that, and have the ovens up at chest level or waist level for food and things like that. People put those in as much for style as they did for usability. The other thing with these things too is that it presents a real issue depending on your community, because you have to have a large exhaust fan, which moves a lot of air. And one of the things that's happened over these last several years is people are doing homes that are airtight. And what that causes is it's going to suck out all the air, and then you worry about the carbon monoxide and the heater, the heat of pilot lights blowing out and all that kind of stuff. So what they're doing is they're making you put in a makeup air system. So if you're pulling permits and if you're doing things and doing large exhaust fans, you're going to want to do a makeup air system. Slide in range. Okay, very popular. This is like replaces Old Faithful. Okay, really, I haven't put that in a lot of years. Same thing, just very sleeker, more modern. Okay, so it slides in, the controls are in the front. That bottom drawer, that could be a warming drawer, could be just storage. There's that old freestanding that we've all loved and gotten rid of. I remember that when I grew up, I had 10 brothers and sisters, and my mother always took the knobs and took them off and put them in a little bowl on the top of the countertop so the kids couldn't turn the gas on. Teppanyaki. I've sold one, and the lady always reminds me about it because if I ever see her out around town, she said, "John, teppanyaki lady," and what that is, it's like going to these stir-fried restaurants. Basically, you get much more heat in the middle. When that stainless heats up, it bows, almost creates like a wok effect. I've only put one in all the years, and she's absolutely loved it. You can downdraft today. So what you can do is you can take your burners and actually vent down and out, or go with a traditional hood. I'll go up with the updrafting in a minute. So here's the induction cooktop. I talked about this at the show. This is where replace the electric. It works by a magnetic field underneath. So the molecules in the metal, by the magnetic field underneath, we're going to create create a friction that goes 1,000,000 miles an hour, which warms the pot up. So the cooktop's not generating the heat. The pan is actually generating the heat. And you're going to want to have your pots and pans that a magnet would stick to. The steam oven. Remember, I talked a lot about this at the show. I love this thing. In fact, when I'm doing my kitchen this year, and first thing was the steam oven that goes in. So these things it's absolutely the best way to cook. It's an investment, like I talked about at the beginning of class. But if you cook, you really want to explore this. So you can do your salmon, okay? You can do your vegetables, potatoes. These things are computerized. I'll tell you when to put each of those units, those pieces of food in, at what rack level, and they'll all come out perfectly cooked and not tasting like the other. That vegetable, you could season those vegetables and have a perforated tray for them and drip down. The other things you can do, you should really YouTube this if you're interested and really want to get into the cooking aspect of things. You know, you could do breads, you can do, you know, roast chickens, you can do just so much. Vegetables are so healthy in there. Fish. I had a lady that, just like that meatloaf last night, she sent me a picture. Her husband said, "What the hell's gotten into you? Where'd you learn to cook?" Because she had the steam oven and she put the fish in, and it absolutely came out perfect. Her husband loved it. So these are all different things to explore. They do have them working various places around town. You can actually try them. I'll take my client in at lunchtime with a piece of fish or chicken, and that will cook in there. Have lunch. Single oven with a cooktop. I talked about that earlier. You know, with when we are at that transitional kitchen, that white kitchen, you can see there. The only thing that does, I really love the look, but it lowers the oven a little bit. Double ovens, again, I don't do as many double ovens today. I really don't, because what people are doing is they're putting a single oven in, and then they'll be going and putting in the steam oven above it, or the speed oven. Speaking of speed ovens, there it is. Okay, and this one will not break the bank. I'm putting all three in my kitchen. This replaces the microwave. So tonight, okay, if I want, which I probably will end up having, is a sweet potato, I'll have to put it in and wait almost an hour for it to be done and time it with my cod. And if I had a speed oven, I could have my potato done restaurant quality in about 12 minutes. And it works on 3 powers: microwave, so it has a microwave feature. It has the convection. There's that fan on the back, and then it has that halogen, which is that searing light coming down. It's all pre-programmed. So all you have to tell it is what you're cooking, and it'll figure it all out for you, time-wise, everything. So if you say you want chicken breast, it'll say how many, and it'll say what size, small, medium, large, and then hit start, and it's all done. All the kids' recipes are in there. You know, these are the things I wish I had back when the girls were in high school and grade school. I mean, how many sporting events I've gone to in my lifetime, and concerts and parent-teacher conferences and everything. You're always getting home at 8 o'clock. You know, to be able to cook a meal instead of grabbing a pizza with these things is really, really incredible. Okay, keep using that word convection. There it is again, just that fan blowing the air around the food. Really adds a nice touch. So you take a turkey, put it in there, it'll seal off the juices because it'll crust the skin, and it ends up with a tremendous cook of, again, you can do cookies in there, you can do turkey, I mean, chickens, you know, really a nice touch. So going back on these 3 things, just to show you, if you're gonna cook, well, not if, you know, when you're gonna cook, if you invest in the steam, okay, or in the speed, you're not gonna use these ovens. You're not gonna use that single oven except at holiday time, especially if anybody out there are empty nesters, you know, you can do a whole casserole. And the other thing too, it's much more energy efficient because it heats up. The cavity is not huge. You know, it heats up really quickly and faster, you know, so you're only going to be using that big oven really at holiday time. And you still need it because these things are smaller in size. Venting, I promised I'd come here. Okay, we can updraft. That's the vent up on top. We can downdraft. We can downdraft inline. We'll show you all this. We can downdraft remote. So here's what we have. We have a hood, goes up. You can also do what's called a ductless hood. What a ductless hood does is it basically just blows the air back into the room. Some of you may have it already. It has a charcoal filter that you've got to wash periodically. But let's say, I mean, that's not the best avenue to do it. So let's say we get into this and we go and we vent out, okay? The longer the run, the least effective it is. So in certain situations, if you have a long run, you may want to put that middle in, and that's what's referred to as a remote, where the blower would be on the outside. They also have them, let's say we're going to downdraft. Okay, so do you want the motor on the left there? Do you want the motor in the cabinet taking away from all your storage space? Or do you want to put the motor in the basement? Okay, and there it is. There, you can see it right there. Or do you put it outside? Usually people, if they're downdrafting, I would say half the time they're going to probably do that in line in the basement or somewhere. Dishwashers. Keep near the sink, naturally. Option to raise so as not to bend over. I did do that, not a lot, but probably 3 or 4 a year, like I showed you those ovens in Strongsville, where I'll raise them up. Available in 18 to 24-inch bottles. Most of us are going with the 24-inch bottle today. Available in drawer units now. That's very popular. So what I'll do a lot of times in a kitchen, I'll have a dishwasher and a half, where they'll put a regular dishwasher and then they'll do either maybe in the island by the vegetable sink, or they'll keep it by the main sink. They'll put a drawer in. And the drawers you can buy as single units or as double units. Available and fully integrated. Remember that refrigeration we talked about where it's you hardly can see it? You can do the same with dishwashers. That's what covering with the cabinet panel is. Shop for stackability and quietness. The two brands that I love, I'll tell you right now, there's a fully integrated where the controls, you don't see them. Bosch and Miele are the two that I love. And Bosch would be more on the, I'm not gonna say economical, but standard pricing. And Miele would be a little more. There's the drawers. So you could split those. You can even do split them and put one on the left and one on the right. You're never bending over, especially if you're empty nesters. There's the raising of the dishwasher. Compactors, I would say I never put them in anymore, but I'm working on a job right now where he wants one. Usually 15 inches wide, normally kept by the sink, but it's okay to put in other areas. Smells tend to be an issue. Cabinet fronts are available. Optional unit if you don't recycle. Sometimes somebody is up in aging in years, things like that. Lifting up that bag can be an issue. Okay, miscellaneous appliances. What are some of the other appliances we can put in a kitchen? Okay. Wine refrigeration. I put those probably in half my kitchens. You can do it even as a tall unit. Separate ice maker. A lot of times that might go into a bar area or something. Built-in coffee system. Putting one of those in right now. Warming drawer. So let's say that you're in a situation where, and the other thing too, that one thing about that steam oven, the steam oven's perfect for holding over food, not drying it out and things like that. Since the steam oven has come on strong, the warming drawer has not been as popular. I used to put warming drawers into 75% of the kitchens. And the reason is because you put the food in a regular oven, it's going to dry it out. Here, These things are sealed tight where it's going to maintain the humidity in the food and not dry it out. So I'm not saying don't put them in today, absolutely. But if you're going to go the route of the steam oven, you might want to second think it. But it's really a nice accessory, and I can also integrate it so it looks like a drawer. If you don't want to invest in a steam oven, I used to sell a lot of these. I don't do much of these at all anymore, but these are called steam units, and the steam, actually a countertop steam hob. And now, and I used to sell a ton of these, where you could do the vegetables, you could do the pastas and everything right in the countertop, where we drop in a little 12-inch segment there. And that's where I came up with the word hob system. So let's say that you want to have a, I don't know, 5-foot section of cooking. You could now go and pick a la carte what you want to do. So here you can see on the left, that was halogen. You could do induction. That's on the right of the burners. You could do gas. You could do a fryer. You could do that steam hob. What else is there? I'm sure I'm missing one or two of these things. A wok. You could do a wok unit. So you can just put together all you want, and that's what you refer to as a hob unit. Not popular today since people have gone more simplistic with either the gas or the induction. Okay, any questions on appliances? There's a lot of good places around town. You really want to get somebody though that is going to spend the time with you. What I do with my clients is I go with them and act as their guardian angel to make sure that they get the good fit of what they want at the dollars they want to be. Okay, countertops, tile, solid surface, stone, stainless steel, butcher block, quartz, granite, laminate. Let's go to back a second. Okay, so now as we go down, I'm going to talk about each individually, but there's really only two on here that people are buying today. They're buying either the quartz or they're buying the granite. And there's a third one. And I would probably put the third, well, stone is called quartzite, which is a natural material. It's like granite and it's absolutely beautiful, but it's up there dollars. You're gonna have to pick and choose that, you know. Again, it came across as a little joke when I showed that slide of that counter depth refrigerator and said, what do you want to spend in a kitchen? You know, it all depends. And, you know, you've got so many options here. If you put the steam unit in, you buy quartzite, you just get an entry level granite, you know, all those kind of things. You have to pick and choose, and it's nice to price everything out and see where it comes. But let's go through, and you can go, I'll tell you where to go look at this stuff too. Tile. Tile used to be very popular in countertops before the invention, or the realization we could do some interesting effective countertops. But tile, heat proof, wipes clean, individuals can be replaced, heat resistant, beautiful rich look, resist moisture. Cons, expensive, I hate that word. What's expensive to me might not be to you and vice versa. But you have the labor to put it in. Hard to keep the grout lines clean. Surface isn't smooth enough to roll out the doughs or the cutting. And there's a beautiful tile kitchen. So one of the things about tile, if you're going to see a kitchen like this, it's usually going to be a Southwest kitchen where you have they want more of the cooler feels to the countertops. The only thing about this, it looks absolutely beautiful, but over time, like those tile edges and things like that, sometimes they come off and have to be replaced and things, but just not popular as much anymore. Solid surface. Okay, solid surface, basically, you know it, the term that everybody knows out there is Corian, and you see it a lot in hotel rooms and McDonald's bathrooms and the banks where the teller is, things like that. But the nice thing about it is chips, dents, and scratches can be fixed easily. Color choices. Integral sinks. That means it's all molded into one piece. Unique edge treatments. We can have some fun with edge treatments. Potential to crack. Tend to be expensive. Can tend to stain, but spots can be removed. There's a gorgeous solid surface countertop. Stainless steel. Pros, does not stain. Attractive modern look. Integral sink. Scratches can be fixed easily. Scratches easily, I'm sorry. Expensive, that truly is expensive. Can tend to water spot. There's a gorgeous stainless steel sink. Now, one of the things about countertops, while I'm here, I'll talk about is if you're going to get more modern, I don't know if anybody out there is interested in a modern kitchen. My countertop that I'm putting in is going to be 5/8 of an inch thick, very thin, very European. They used to have about 2 years ago where everybody wanted thicker countertops everywhere. Now what they're doing is the only time you put a thicker countertop in generally is what's referred to as a dropped edge. And a dropped edge means that it's thicker in the island. So you use quartz or granite, you can miter it and return it down and get a thicker look. That's very popular doing in more of the traditional or transitional kitchens. But this stainless here today, the slide is probably about 5 years old. Today, you would probably have this at 3/4 of an inch. Butcher block, I don't do much with butcher block because of the upkeep, but doesn't dull the knife blades, can be sanded and resealed. Porous, unsanitary. So you got to be very careful with butcher. And bleach it out and things like that to get the bacteria out of it. Can tend to water damage. The only time people are really putting in the butcher today or wood tops if they want more of this exotic look, you know, because the sinks and all, they all have their own accessories and things like that. They can. Quartz. This is a big one. This is a huge one. Probably 70% of the sales that I do are of countertops are quartz. Great color selection. Consistent. That's a big one. Heat resistant. Do not need to seal it. Intend to be expensive. So there's different grade levels in different companies. We'll have seams. Not a cutting surface. Beautiful quartz countertop. This was more of a modern kitchen I did. So you can see here, very understated. There's not a lot of movement in the countertops. Granite, resistant to scratches, durable, heat resistant, resistant to chips, stain resistant, unique. This is where you get some really beautiful stuff here. Expensive, I don't know. I probably should take that word off because the entry-level granites are very affordable. But it can be it can also be the most expensive thing out there if you pick. Usually when you go in, they're going to have categories A to Z, you know, to be able to pick from. And the Z would be the most expensive. So, and that would also have the most beauty to it. Functionally, they're all going to be pretty consistent. You're going to have seams. Need to reseal it. They now have sealers out there that you can do it within 2 years. 2 years. Granite, there's a beautiful picture. That's my favorite all-time countertop. That's a what's referred to as a leather finish. Posting, if you're wondering behind those pears, that's a compost bin. Laminate, inexpensive, great color selection. You can apply wood edging to it, easy upkeep, impact resistant. will tend to scorch and scratch, so you definitely do not want to cut on it or put anything hot on it. Can't repair it. Once it's cut, scratched, that's it. Cannot clean with abrasives. There's a laminate top. Now you say, wait, that doesn't look like laminate to me. That's beautiful. Well, now with laminate, you can roll the edges, but there's a dead giveaway why that's laminate. Look at the sink. You notice the sink is self-rimming, not undermounted, like that. That's a dead giveaway why that's laminate, you can see. Some different backsplashes you can do. You could do stamped, stainless, glass, you could do glass. You do iridescent mini subways. Okay, any questions on countertops? And you can always, after class, email me or call me if you have a question. Okay, let's now talk about sinks. Different types of materials. Okay, stainless, and a lot of these are going to have the same thing. That's going to be material that was in the countertop, so it's going to be the same family. Cast iron, fire clay, quartz, stone, Corian or solid surface. And then you go to single bowls, double bowls, triple bowls, self-rimming. We talked about that with laminate, undermounts, most popular. Integral, again, if you're going to doing a bathroom now, they definitely, for cleaning and everything, they definitely want it all one piece, the countertop and the sink. Farmhouse or apron front, we'll show you that. That's popular today too. High-low, tile in, not at all, because I don't do tile countertops. Bar sinks. Okay, so here's a stainless steel sink. Now, looking at this, it's a modern looking sink, okay? And the thing about stainless steel is that you have options. Notice how sharp those corners are inside that sink. So some of your more modern looking sinks and sleeker sinks, they do that. The only problem with that is that they're harder to keep clean. Things get caught up, hard to clean there. So what they've come up with is like a mini radius. So when you're looking at sinks, you're going to want to be looking at, you know, do you want that larger radius and things like that. And they also have all different gauges and different quality and deadening agents and all different things that you can talk to your local plumbing outlet and they can guide you through all that. There's a cast iron. I don't do cast iron anymore, and that's because fire clay has taken its place in my world. But this is an interesting sink because look at that low rise in the middle. So that could double up as a large single sink or as a double. Most people today are going with single sinks, but whenever you have that opportunity that you want to have a double, this gives you nice flexibility too. This is fire clay. Okay, so what fire clay does, fire clay is going to give you, it's a clay substrate, and they go and they thermally fuse in the glazing at 2200 degrees. So very, very, very scratch resistant, stain resistant. I'm not going to say it's virtually indestructible, but it's up there, you know. So it adds a really, really nice touch. And it comes in different colors, by the way. Not as many colors as a cast iron, but it comes in your browns, your blacks, your creams, your whites. Quartz. Blanco's my favorite brand that I mentioned at the show. There's that low divide again. See how nice that is? So now you have a virtually indestructible sink, okay, made of designer colors, quartz material that we all know is one of the hardest properties known to man, and you're not breaking the bank. You could get that sink for roughly for $500 to $700, you know. And again, Blanco is my favorite brand on that one. There's that Corian. See how it's all one piece? People absolutely love that. People buy the Corian more for the sink, being able to do that than they do the material. Bar sinks, vegetable sinks, all different things we can do. There's a single bowl. Now, one of the things to think about with a single bowl sink, if you have the opportunity, you may or you may not, is to go and put the drain up in the right-hand top corner. So if you have a single sink and you have all your pots and pans in there, you want to use your disposer, it's nice to do that. So something to think about. Single bowls, they come up to 30, 33 inches wide. So you get a nice large single bowl sink. The galley sink, we talked about this at the show. This is it's not even a sink, it's a water station. In this sink, you could be talking up to, I think the sink, a 36-inch with the accessories, you could start around $4,000 bucks. But look how nice that is and what that will do. Comes up to 5 foot wide, I think maybe even 6 foot, but you can slide all your accessories on it. There's your built-in colander, your drain board, your cutting board. See, this is why people aren't doing cutting boards per se, because all these sinks are going to have the built-ins today. Self-rimming, not popular today, again, unless you're doing laminate. Where I guess, self-rimming is popular for me in laundry rooms, because I'll tell the people why invest in undermount sinks in a laundry room. There's the undermount, very popular. Integral, we talked a lot about that. There's the apron front. So the apron front is very, very attractive. That's fire clay. And, it just adds a nice dimension. This really goes up and down with me. A lot of times people may want it only, I don't know, every 2 or 3 years it has a run on them and then it quiets down a little bit. But it's a beautiful touch for a traditional kitchen or for a country kitchen. It just adds, and I do a lot of those in laundry rooms too. Stainless front. Multiple sinks in the kitchen. That sink there came out about 10 years ago and everybody, ooh, ah, wow. And those things are pretty much useless unless you're putting, some shrimp cocktail or beers with ice or things like that. It's just not a practical sink. I have not seen it out there in a little while. Different types of faucets. Again, go to your plumbing place. I love Delta for my faucets. I love the situation where that pull down spray has a magnet and it snaps back into place. All different styles. The upper echelons of the Delta is called Breezio, and you get some really nice faucets there. More industrial looking. Single handle with a spray. All different types. There's an Instant Hot. Do you want to put the Instant Hot in? Where you can have, or even a filtered water system. Bridge faucets with a dual Instant Hot that's filtering your hot and then your room temperature water. Lotion dispensers. 2 places I like to do all my plumbing is Edelman Plumbing on the east side. They're on the west side too. Danny takes good care of me. Welker McKee's really good. Air switch. There's that thinner countertop, by the way, you can see with the sink. That's at 3/4. That's what I'm doing. And then see the air switch on the bottom. All that is a little air activation switch for the disposer. And then also, you can see here, going back, there's that mini radius on that stainless. Okay, we'll finish it off with flooring today. Materials for the floor: stone, hardwood, engineered wood, tile, laminate, vinyl. Okay, let's go here and before we go into the individual ones, I'll tell you what's popular. Stone, I don't do anymore. You don't ask me for stone anymore, and I'll explain why in a moment. Hardwood, you ask me a lot for it. Engineered wood, I'll explain why. Sometimes I recommend engineered over hardwood. Tile, we do a lot of it. Laminate, don't do any. Vinyl's very popular. Okay. So stone, I'll still go through it. Natural stone is beautiful and extremely durable. Hard stones are recommended, such as granite, slate, limestone, due to the fact they will not absorb dust and dirt as easily as others. Limestone seems to be the people's choice with stone. And you can do, even with the porous stones, can be effective with sealing them. Price falls on the higher side and lifespan is unlimited. Anytime you put a natural stone in, a tile man's going to charge a lot more. There's a stone floor. Now, why, I'll jump a little ahead. Why do I say that I don't do these anymore? Because porcelain tile at $3 to $7 a square foot has replaced it, and you can't tell the difference when it's laid. So you can take natural stone, 10 to 20 bucks a square foot, you've got to seal it, and it's going to cost you more to put in, or you could put in the porcelain that looks just like it. Hardwood, denser the wood, the more durable. Oak and maple are the common choices. We now need to add hickory into that. That's becoming more popular. Hardwood is popular because it works with both contemporary and traditional. Wood is notorious for its warmth and resilience, so it's a lot softer on the feet than you'll get with your tiles. One thing about the tile, though, that in the stone, you could heat those floors underneath, which people love. Price point is medium, and lifespan is 100 plus years with proper refinishing. There's a beautiful hardwood floor. And what I do with these hardwoods is I can go in and I'll put it in unfinished. I'll bring out my Amish refinisher, and then we will go and come up. He'll match the color, the stains right there, and he'll maybe lay 6 or 8 stains. Which ones do we like? And then he'll go and finish the floor to that. Okay, so what's what? First of all, what is hardwood? Hardwood is 3/4 of an inch thick. Okay, it's solid, 3/4 of an inch. You go into engineered wood. Okay, it's made from a combination of solid wood and a ply sublayer. Option to get pre-finished, which means that there's no smelly or unhealthy odors. Engineered wood is ideal for more humid areas, which I'll talk about in a moment. So we can go in wider planks and things like that. Price point is medium, high, and the lifespan is unlimited. Okay, so what is this? Basically, it's about 1/4 of an inch of hardwood, and then it's plywood underneath. A lot of you folks out there right now are wanting to go with these wider planks. The more wider the plank goes, the more tendency with humidity, and if there's any water damage, for it to start cupping. If you live by a lake, you know, you don't want to put hardwood in over the engineered. You'd like to do this engineered wood. So you can go and you can put it down, and a lot of people think that, oh my God, it's not true hardwood. It doesn't need to be. I mean, if you're never going to go through that layer if you have a quality hardwood. So you can go 6, 8, 10 inches wide with your planks, where you wouldn't be able to do that with hardwood, because it'll warp and it'll cup. And that's the same thing with cabinets. Like people think, oh, am I getting a solid wood cabinet? No, you're never going to get a solid wood cabinet. Well, actually, it's a play on words. Is plywood solid wood? That's a play on words. You don't think it is, okay? I tend not to think it is. So engineered wood is going to be going in this, and the thicker you go with that top layer, the better quality you have. I've been in some of these homes where they do that, and it's like an onion skin on the top. And the problem is 3 sandings or 2 sandings, and that floor is ruined. So you want to get a good quality product and go with the, you know, and get that flexibility, especially if you're around a lake or something. Tile, highly sought after for its durability. It's been used for centuries. Nice feature of tile, allows us to be creative. So I can do some, especially in bathrooms with the floor patterns and things like that. I can be very much interested. Porcelain tiles tend to resemble natural stone at a fraction of the price. Okay, so there it is. If you're interested in a tile floor, the porcelain tile is going to be really a nice option. And in doing this, the other thing nice about this is that you can also buy tile that's referred to as rectified tile, where you almost don't see a grout joint, which is really nice. The only negative to tile, though, I got to tell you, it's harder on the feet. You know, so that's just something to think about. Okay. And there's a nice, beautiful porcelain floor. Laminate, I don't do much of it anymore. It's a hard surface. Basically, you know what laminate is. The problem with this, it cannot be refinished. I'll never forget at my studio, not mine, when I was working for somebody about 25 years ago, we put down new flooring, and then all of a sudden we had delivered a new Xerox machine. That's really dating me, saying a Xerox machine. And it came across that floor and scratched it. And there's just nothing we could have done because it just had now a scratch going back to the back of the studio where the Xerox machine was going to go. Generally less than hardwood and engineered wood because they do not require subfloor prep. And the other thing too is the one that's coming up next is basically replace this. So there's your laminate flooring. Okay, so now this is what's replaced. This is a winner along with the others, and it's popular. One of the hottest floors on the market today. Excellent for durability, reflects authentic wood or a tile look. You can even go and have it grouted. You can put down the tile look and grout so it looks like a real tile. Can be layered over existing tile floors in most cases. This is a huge one because a lot of you folks you want to replace the flooring in the first floor, and if it's all tile, you can have $5,000 to $8,000 just tearing out and prepping, where now this can go right over it, which is a huge savings. There it is. If you guys ever need for resources, I can tell you where to go. I'll tell you where to go on this one right up front. Or any carpet or anything is Marshall on the east side on Mayfield, Marshall one. But now can you see a dog running in? You know, like when I let Denali in this morning early, you know, you have to wipe the paws, you have to get them out of blah, 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 blah. So if he ever snuck loose from me, then he'd be in on the carpet, everything else. If I had this luxury vinyl tile everywhere, just wipe it right down. Bamboo, not as popular today with me, but environmentally friendly and renewable. Has a stunning and unique look. Available in many different shades. Too pricey, durable. The longer it's aged, the better it is. So it gets much harder. So there's bamboo. Beautiful in a modern type of kitchen or area. You would not want to put this up against hardwood. Okay, that brings us to the end. I hope you enjoyed the hour and a half. If you have any questions, you can email me. If anybody, believe me, if you're finding all this stuff really educational and informative, you may want to research and get in contact with me for that series of the webinars and the book and everything to keep you going. If anybody has any, ever needs to talk to me about design work or anything else, kitchens, baths, I'm always here for you. So you can look me up. And then also if you're at the show, and maybe pull me aside at the show if you come down to the next one, I'll have a booth, but also to tell me if you enjoyed the class or any input you can offer or anything. Okay, so go out. I see the sun just came out. Go out and enjoy the day. And I really appreciate you guys taking the time this morning. Thank you. Bye-bye.